So, get this. India is gearing up to count its population again, but this time there's one particular question making a comeback, a question that could literally reshape our entire political landscape. We are, of course, talking about the caste census. So, what does this huge update actually mean for the country? Let's break it all down. All right, so here's our game plan for today. First, we'll jump right into the big news about the upcoming 2025-26 census. Then we'll take a step back to understand the whole story of the caste census and the history of this massive exercise in India. We'll also look at a snapshot from the 2011 data, and finally, we'll tie it all together to see why this is all so important.
All right, so let's get right into it. What is this breaking news that has put the census back in all the headlines?
Okay, let's kick things off with a really direct question. What is the single biggest change we're going to see in the upcoming census? And here it is. The answer is a total game changer. It's going to be a caste-based census. This is a massive decision by the central government, a really major shift in policy. Let's dig into what we know about this so far. So let's get into the specifics, right? The nitty-gritty details. The official announcement came from Union Minister Ashwini Vaishnav. They've set aside a substantial budget of 574 crores for this. And, this is the crucial part, the final data is expected to be ready by the end of 2026. That means its impact on politics and society is coming, and it's coming soon. And just so you know where all this is coming from, for this entire explainer, we're pulling our information directly from these detailed study notes on the topic, so you can be sure everything we're covering is accurate and on point. But, to really get why bringing back the caste census is such a huge deal, we've got to step back and look at the whole complicated story behind it in independent India. This timeline really lays it all out for us. See, all the way up until 1931, when India was under British rule, collecting caste data was standard practice. But then, after independence, from 1951 onwards, that was stopped. And the idea, the vision, was to build a modern, casteless society. Now, they tried to bring it back in 2011 with something called the Socio-Economic Caste Census, but here's the catch. The raw data from that was never fully released publicly. So this upcoming 2025-26 census marks a historic official return after almost a century. And here's another interesting piece of the puzzle. Even though the central government had stopped collecting this data nationally, the demand for it never really vanished. In fact, some states, like Bihar, Andhra Pradesh, and Telangana, actually went ahead and did their own state-level caste surveys recently to help shape their own welfare policies. Okay, so now that we've talked about the whole caste question, let's zoom out a bit and appreciate the history of the census exercise itself. So, first things first, who's actually in charge of this massive undertaking? Well, the responsibility for the census in India falls on the office of the Registrar General and Census Commissioner. Their job is to basically create a complete snapshot of the nation by collecting demographic, economic, and social data. The history here is actually pretty fascinating. It all started way back in 1872 with a partial census under Lord Mayo, but the first complete synchronized one across the country, that came in 1881 under Lord Ripon, and since then it's been like clockwork, happening every 10 years without fail. It's a tradition that was only broken once, when the 2021 census had to be postponed because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, so let's jump in our time machine and go back to 2011. What kind of picture did the last census paint for us? Let's check out some of the key numbers. Okay, let's start with the big one, population. Back in 2011, India's population officially crossed 121 crores. Now, to give you a sense of that scale, just in the 10 years before that, we added over 18 crore people. That's like adding the entire population of Pakistan at the time. It's just, wow. But the census isn't just one big number. It shows us these incredible differences across the country. Uttar Pradesh was our most populous state, while Sikkim had the lowest population. And then there's population density. Think about it. In Bihar, you had over 1,100 people squeezed into every single square kilometer, which tells you a lot about the pressure on resources there. Meanwhile, in Arunachal Pradesh, it was just 17. Now, what about literacy? The overall rate was around 74%, which is great. But when you dig into the data, you see this gap that we really need to pay attention to. Male literacy was over 82%, but female literacy was just over 65%. That gap is a really crucial piece of information for policymakers who are focused on education and women's empowerment. All right, another really important number is the sex ratio. In 2011, India had 940 females for every 1,000 males. This is one of those key indicators of the social health of our country, and it's a number that directly influences major policies like Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. You know, the 2011 census was also a big deal because of some cool firsts. For the very first time, they used scanning technology to help process all that massive data. And in a huge step for social inclusion, the transgender population was officially included and counted for the first time. It just goes to show that the census is always evolving with our society and our technology. Okay, so we've looked at the history, the data, the big news, which brings us to the most important question of all. Why does any of this matter? Why do we even do all this counting? Well, to put it simply, this data is the blueprint for running the country. It's what decides where new schools get built, where we need more hospitals, and even how the central government distributes funds to different states. Without this accurate data, you just can't do effective planning for a nation as vast as ours. And this is really the big question we're all left with. How is this new, super detailed caste data going to change things? I mean, everything from government policies to reservation to the very nature of our politics. It's definitely something to think about, and we'll be watching it closely. If you found this explainer helpful, please hit that like button, leave a comment with your feedback, and definitely share it with your friends.
Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more helpful explainers like this one. And for more practice questions, join us on Telegram. The link is right there in the description.
And hey, if there's a specific topic you want me to cover, let me know in the comments below. I'll do my best to create an explainer on it. Thanks for watching.